All right, let's get started here. So this is my presentation on the 2025 visitation forecast for Crater Lake National Park. This is located in Oregon, which is pretty close here, I think. And this is going to be an analytical look at trends and projections. My name is Andy, and I'm excited to share this presentation with you. So Crater Lake is a really unique spot. It's a very large lake, similar to Lake Tahoe in the fact that it's very deep and very cold. And some of its most pronounced features are its round shape, deep waters, and also that interesting feature you can see that little island right there, which I think is really, really cool. And it mainly attracts families, hikers, and just general tourists who want to see the area. There's some amazing hiking trails along the lake, and it's mostly popular during the warmer months of the year. So you're talking mainly June through September. And that is actually shown on this monthly average attendance graph, where you can see that there's a huge spike during the summer months. And then once it starts getting cold again, you start to see a huge decline in attendance. And on more broad terms, I pulled data from 1979 all the way until present day 2024. And as you can see, there's a decent oscillation from 1979 all the way up until about 2011, where you see a huge increase in visitation. And then up until about 2016, you see a nice little decrease again. And I think this is really interesting. So let's dive in. So for my forecasting method, I did multiple prediction methods, including moving average 5, moving average 3, exponential smoothing, and last but not least, linear regression. And linear regression was chosen mostly because it's both unbiased and really precise. The model makes predictions that, on average, perfectly align with the actual values, and it means that it doesn't really consistently over or under predict, which is important for reliable planning. Linear regression is most precise because it has the lowest mean and absolute error, has the lowest mean absolute error of all the models, meaning that its forecasts stay closer to real attendance figures than the others. And this is actually apparent when you compare exponential smoothing, for example, where it actually underpredicts attendance figures from the actual values starting in about 2016, where you see attendance figures being predicted through exponential smoothing starting at about 50 or 575,000 compared to the actual attendance of about 775,000. But then if you look on the chart on the left, you can see that you have a very straight line produced by linear regression. And this shows this is honestly like a line of best fit. I think it really captures visually, it captures the cleanest representation of the actual data. And with that, we're going to be using that for our analysis and our forecast for 2025. Unlike moving averages, which lag behind trends, linear regression captures like the overall visitation trend a lot more smoothly and clearly, I would say. So moving on to our forecast for 2025, I chose to split my regression analyses into three sections. The first being all the data from 1979 to 2024, and the second being the last 20 years, the third being 2016 to 2024, which I think captures the most accurate representation moving forward in predicting for 2025, just because you start to see a decline in attendance starting in about 2016. And that is actually consistent all the way until 2024 and 2025 as my forecasts show. I also think it's kind of interesting too. It's important to note that the attendance started to decline in 2016 and not necessarily starting in 2020 when the global pandemic happened. A lot of the other national parks, you actually started to see a decline starting in right around 2020, but in this case, you actually start seeing it in 2016, which is usually which is right around when people started to post online all the time on social media places they were going, and you actually started to see a huge increase in park attendance right around then. So I think that's kind of interesting. So moving on to my predictions, I actually over predicted the first couple months of the year. As you can see, our actual attendance figures in July and February, or in January and February, pardon me, are actually lower than my predicted attendances. And I really don't think this matters too much, mostly because when you add up all of the months of the year, you end up getting a lower total than the previous year. As you can see, 2025 was 400, you had 486,000 total viewers projected compared to 2024, which had 504,000 roughly viewers or attendance figures. So that's kind of interesting. Um, I would say though that my predictions are going to be a little bit inaccurate, mostly because of the news that the park is actually going to be closing after 2025 up until 2029, and I believe this is due to research and conservation efforts. So I really do think that you're going to see actually a little bit of an increase from previous years in total attendance, mostly because people are going to want to see the park before it closes for a while. I think this is a really pretty location, and people are going to want to take advantage of that before the park's closed. Um, so yeah, that's basically it. I think I really hope this was informative, and I will definitely say that you're going to see that even though my predictions show a decline in 2025, I really do think we're actually going to see an increase. Um, so yeah, with that being said, I encourage all of you guys to visit this wonderful national park. I personally have never been, and I would love to see it before it closes, and I think that might be on my summer bucket list. So with that being said, thank you for listening.